Good morning. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025. It is now 11 o'clock, and this is our second special meeting of the Jefferson Public Utility District Board of Commissioners today. And my name is Jeff Randall. I'm president of the board, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Jefferson PUD will be offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak. And if you're calling use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise a hand to request to speak. So let's do another roll call. I'm Jeff Randall, president of the board and commissioner for District 1.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
Okay, we're all present. The agenda, we have one item on the agenda, broadband payment in lieu of tax negotiation. Do we have any other items for the agenda? Okay, we have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
So Ken motion. Is that a head nod, Ken?
Yes.
Ken made the motion. Dan seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Kevin.
So, and we will tag team this between Joel, Mike, Will, and myself. I'll start out. There's an RCW, and I hope I get this right, 54-16-425, Section 3 and 4. And basically, it talks about the county will distribute some tax to the taxing authorities or junior taxing districts based on assets similar to your home, not revenues, that we would pay the going levy. But it is a negotiated levy. And the PUD has asked the county to go from 100% levy, which we're allowed to do per the RCW, and negotiate it down to something that's fair to all parties concerned. So the PUD met with Jeff Chapman and Mark McCauley of the port or the county last week and had a very productive meeting. I am going to give out a shout out to Mark McCauley. He was very willing to listen to the PUD and move this forward. So
So Kevin, real quick. So just for clarification, so is this something that's in this PILT money? Is this something in statute strictly to like a public entity like the utilities, or do all ISPs pay this tax to the county in some way, shape, or form? Is there, define this a little better before you go down the road?
So we're the first public agency that has to do this. Privates have paid this to the county in the past.
And that's just as form of a property tax that private
Correct.
ISPs are
And
assessed by the county?
yes.
Okay.
So, and Will, Mike, jump in as you guys see fit. So it's a statute, but the statute does said that it's a negotiation between the PUD and the county.
Right.
And if I can just jump in quickly, the statute is in the PUD RCW section 5416. So it's specifically related to retail sales, retail facilities by a PUD.
So the private entities can negotiate a different rate than?
We don't, they're just subject to whatever tax rate applies to them. PUDs are exempt from paying property tax, so the legislature gives counties the authority to impose a payment in lieu of property tax. That's what it's called. And we pay it on the electric side, right, Kevin? I think we do.
Yes.
Privilege tax.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, and Mitchell, I see your hand, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through staff presentation, commissioner clarification questions before we go to public comment. So keep going.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mitchell.
So during our meeting, the information that we talked to the county about is right now, per the state, we had to pay the tax on approximately $1.5 million, which was $12,000. That doesn't seem like a lot of money. The concern from staff was that in 5.5 years, we'll have $70 million worth of hard assets that we would be paying this tax on. If we left the tax at 100%, what the 12,000 is today, that would be over $500,000 in tax
Per year.
per year. We feel that that would be, the PUD is trying to connect underserved, not served areas, and that would take away our ability to do additional work in the future. And we've talked to the county, and the county agreed for the 2024 tax that we would pay 50%. They were comfortable with that. And as the PUD, we're comfortable with that also. That fits into a like a doable amount.
Can I stop you there? So can this or will this be renegotiated every year? Is there a window that goes for a certain amount of time before it gets revisited? Is it set for a decade? I mean, how often could or would this be renegotiated?
What we're hoping to do is to negotiate a long-term settlement, but we want to pay the 6,000 basically needs to be paid by the 30th of April.
Okay.
So that gets us moving forward. What part of the county's and the PUD's resolution was to, the PUD would hire either FCS or Moss Adams, somebody who can come in and look at what others are paying, looking at what is a reasonable amount. And then next year we'll meet again and we'll renegotiate. Now, we did throw some numbers out there for the renegotiation next year. It wasn't included in the documentation that the county put out, but in disclosure, we were talking about 35% versus the 50%.
Okay.
And I do think the county is willing to work with us. Like I say, the meeting we had Thursday, Friday, I felt was productive. We made headway. Prior to that, it was pretty much, you're just going to pay 100%.
Sure.
And so we feel comfortable we're on the right path, but this is for discussion.
Let me go and then. So Kevin, the concern I have, this all sounds productive. The concern I have is next year you'll be gone. What can we do to document for the people who are at the table next year, and Mark will be gone too, the intent going forward? Can we say something about we're paying the 6,000 now? We have significant concerns about this rate staying fixed going forward because we're trying to provide a service to the public. And ultimately, if they kept it at the, even at the 50%, then we're paying $250,000, which is basically half all the property taxes the PUD collects. So I feel like we need something in the documentation that we share with the county or somewhere so that next year we can say, okay, here were our concerns last year. Those concerns haven't changed. It can't, if we kept it at this rate, it's excessive. So hold on, we're not to public comment yet. We're in commissioner clarification questions and we'll get there. That's just my thought.
I'm thinking, so what Mark wrote up and sent to us, I'm thinking Joel and I could add a paragraph and send it back and say, hey, is this agreeable? A part of the discussion with staff Thursday was both Mark and I will be gone.
Yeah.
So that, but it does make the specific statement in there that it would be negotiated again next year with a consultant helping and hired by the PUD.
Okay, Dan?
So from the bit, I'm going to change the subject off of that onto the dollar side of things. So as a business, which we are going to be a business, How do you see this? Is this something that we would need to adjust rates moving forward, or does this fall within the margin that is baked into the business model? How is this going to impact, the cost to the customer or the cost to the PUD?
The cost of the PUD will go up. So we either have to be able to absorb that through some other mechanism, or what even electrical PUDs do is they have a line item on the bill that says, okay, this is your bill and this is your tax.
Mm-hmm.
On the electrical side, the PUD chose not to do that in the past. On the broadband side, with this tax, it may be, okay, your charge is X dollars and taxes for the upcoming year are gonna be $4. So your bill would be our charge plus the tax. Does that answer your question?
Joel, in realizing it's maybe a little premature, but is that something the PUD could do? Could we show that kind of a fee on, say, a retail customer's broadband bill to say, hey, this is why we're charging this, our estimation of collecting the amount that the county's charging us? That's something we could probably do.
As long as NISC, the portal, all of that works, absolutely.
Okay.
No problem with that.
I'd like to jump in just a second here, because
Okay,
we kind of do this now because the city of Port Townsend has a city utility tax. And so we do that with our electric customers in the city. We do show that that's the only tax that we show on our bills right now. So NISC, so we do have the ability to do it if that's the way we choose to go forward.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, the quick math on the numbers you're throwing out there to me is like 50 cents. If we had 2,000 customers, it's like 50. The first year, it's like 50 cents a month per customer. So
Based on
it's
what
the
$6,000?
$12,000 for the year, and I'm just saying 2,000 customers. I know this is all fluid numbers, but the first year I could see this being negligible. But your point is it's going to escalate.
Yeah.
It's going to become a topic that has to be discussed. And as the PUD, we don't want to move forward just always agreeing to pay the 100%. We need to make sure that it is negotiated fairly for our customers.
Okay. Did commissioners have any more clarifying questions?
I'm good so far.
Staff, do you have any more?
Yeah, I have a question.
Ken?
Kevin, what do you see as the possibility that we could now negotiate a rate that would at least cover the next 4 to 5 years?
I think a couple years, Ken, we could do that. I believe that's doable. I don't know, 5 years may be too far out for the county. I think it depends on the number. If the county gets an advantageous number, we would probably want to go a couple years. The reverse would be the same too, that if the number was in PUD's favor, they would probably want to go a shorter duration.
I guess I'll ask a follow-up. So this assessment or whatever work that FCS or some other entity would do, what would be the time frame on them doing that?
We could start that anytime. The goal would be, though, to get the April 30th payment done.
Yeah.
And then anytime after that, we could start, because the numbers, Mike could put together the numbers we're thinking. We're actually using information that I think we could put together quickly.
Let me finish my thought, Dan, then you can go. So I guess my thought on that is, it sounds like you're looking for authorization to pay the negotiated price. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm kind of with Ken. It's like you got some traction and momentum on this. Why not see what we could negotiate and secure while you're still here, to give, again, a couple things off of the new general manager's plate for at least a couple years. And then Dan.
Yeah, I agree with what the other commissioners are saying here. My question again is going to come back to the dollar amounts and the cost of doing business. Is I'm looking at, what we can do in-house, because and I like having another set of eyes on this. Don't get me wrong. But if we got to pay a consultant another $10, $15, $20,000, you just doubled the cost
Yeah.
of what it's going to be. So I'm a little hesitant to just say, well, we're just going to get a consultant.
Right.
I think we should think through the cost of what that means and the value we get out of that. Is this something we can handle the first year or two on our own without going to a consultant?
Or I guess, do you feel like the county wanted that third party?
And I'm just throwing numbers.
go
It
with-
may not be those numbers, but I'm just anticipating that's where it
I firmly believe the PUD should have the consultant. The PUD should work for, or no, the consultant should work for the PUD, not the county. And I fully expect it to run 15, maybe 20,000. The problem is the expertise, the digging, the trying to come up with the right numbers. It is not in our day-to-day wheelhouse, and I'm not sure if it would be FCS or Moss Adams, but we would research it and then come back to the board and say, based on our discussions with both companies or maybe somebody else, we would make a recommendation. But we need the help.
And I really like, in thinking of, because Joel, again, even though Jeff Chapman as the assessor kind of took the first bite at this as generating a number, where it comes down to is a negotiation between the Jefferson PUD commissioners and the county commissioners. Is that correct? It's action by our two parties that agrees to a number.
Ultimately, as in all things, comes down to you.
Okay. And I guess as I think about it, to me, the best way to explain it to a county commissioner is to show, here's your typical Jefferson PUD broadband customer. Here's what they're paying. Here's the line item. If it's this number, if you want to change it to this other number, now it's okay. Are you going to say that a third of what they're paying should be your tax? I mean, I think those are the ways to get them to understand the impact, because it's not us. It's ultimately the customers that pay for it. Ken?
So I think spending $15,000 to have a firm perspective on whether or not we should be paying $500,000 down the road is a good investment. It's real money, I know that, but having a fact-based, researched opinion, I think, is very much to our advantage. It gives us firm ground to stand on.
Okay. Staff, any more to present?
Yeah, a couple things.
Okay.
So this on their agenda today at 3:00.
Oh,
The county,
Oh, did they put it on for today?
they put it on for today.
I thought Mark was gonna pull. Well, okay.
As of now, it's on there for today. So they're going to discuss it at 3 PM and they've put forward to accept, to advocate for 50%,
okay. Which is the 6,000.
which would be
total.
the 6,000 for this year, but with no agreement going forward.
Okay.
So if the commissioners wanted to have an agreement, well, that's what they're going to discuss, and
Right.
it's on our side to decide what we want
So
to do.
basically it's like, do we have objections or not? to that approach?
Correct.
It's
We
kind of-
would have to file for an extension
Yeah.
not to pay them
Okay.
that amount.
And I do recommend we pay by the 30th. That's not a problem. We can make sure that happens.
Is anybody from our side going to go to that meeting?
We should have people there, yes.
Because I think the question going forward should be put into the record that we have significant concerns going forward. We're kind of reflect these discussions.
Yes.
All right. Anything else from staff? Oh,
No, the only thing I wanted to add to that was that the RCW allows the payment to be completely negotiated. So there is no requirement that there be a payment.
yeah.
It is completely between the two entities to decide.
Okay.
And that's gone back and forth because the state creates a valuation that they get our information. They provide that evaluation. What the payment is between the two
It
entities.
could be that valuation times 0.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any more questions? Okay. So now we'll take some public comments. Leo's got his hand up first, so I guess 3 minutes or less.
There too.
I know, Mitch, we'll get you next, Mitch. That's okay.
Yeah, so this this PILT is based completely on the fact that you have elected to do retail broadband. And I don't really think that you could actually even bring in like Moss Adams because they have nothing to compare it to. You're the only PUD that is elected to do retail. What do you compare it to? So I really don't think that's even a viable option. The other thing is, as far as taxes, right? $250,000. I can tell you, I don't know what the exact number is. I paid more than over $250,000 in taxes last year. So
For your business.
yeah, my business, yes. So I mean,
Does that include your B&O tax, Leo?
oh yeah, that includes my B&O, but B&O is just a little tiny amount. I mean, fraction of a percent. I mean, so, but yeah, so I mean, yeah, so it's but the thing is, it's assessed only on the fact that you've decided whether you have one actually narrow, just the fact that you decided you want to do retail. So literally at this point, you can say, you know what, retail is really not a viable option, and then all of a sudden your pilt will just go away.
Do you have any more comment or questions?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mitch. Mitch, you're on. We can't hear you yet.
Turning it on, turning it on. Okay, well, this is kind of what I was afraid of. I remember these legislative sessions, where the legislative intent was pretty darn clear that this should be an apples to apples thing. When the government wants to get in and compete with the private sector, they're expected to pay the same taxes that we do as ISPs, and I'm not here to be the bearer of bad news, but you want to build this thing on a solid foundation. We provide internet for $10 a month, gigabit speed service on some of our networks, but you can't build this artificial layer of tax into this price. It's crazy. And the law is very clear. It's not like, oh, well, you can just make up the numbers. The law says, and I just sent you an email to the commissioners that basically says this is subject, to be in lieu of property taxes for broadband infrastructure. That's the first sentence, period. That's what it's meant to do. The payment must be determined in good faith. That means you don't just make up a number, you figure out what it is, and that's a good faith number. You can't just hook a wink and a nod here and come up with a fake number. It's actually supposed to be determined by the Department of Utility. Law says district must provide information to the Department of Revenue to make the required valuation under this subsection. So as you invest 80 million or whatever in there, you can expect to pay on that amount. And you can't build this thing on a maybe or a hope and a prayer. We're putting our lives into this thing too. It's not the proper role of government to come in here and knock your local businesses out of business and add this burden onto the taxpayer. I mean, onto the ratepayer. You can't shuffle it off to the electric payers, of course, because that's unfair. You can never do that. I'm sure the attorney can tell you that. It's all going to be borne by these broadband users, and they deserve the lowest rate possible. And the elegant solution is to put us in. Tell the existing customers that we've decided to follow a true open access model with a level playing field, and you got 6 months to pick any ISP. They're all good companies, and they'll give you the same rate and promise to honor that agreement for years into the future. But this is a crazy wedge that they've put into our business model, and it's unfortunate that it's there. But we have to go back to the legislatures to beat it, and we're up against the incumbent monopolists. 4 companies that control 80% of our broadband in this nation. I've been fighting them for 28 years, and I see that someday the political will change. Commissioners come and go. Eventually, they'll say, "Well, we're not interested in being in this." They'll surplus it for $1, and these cats are back in business of owning this monopoly. It happened in Tacoma with Click Network. It happened in Utah for a $1 deal. So watch for that. There's only 3 commissioners. These guys are going to be lobbying to stack the deck against us, and that hurts all your ratepayers in the long term. So I'd say get back on track, run an open access model, and maybe that's my 3 minutes, unless anybody has a question. Yes, we pay taxes on our infrastructure, across the state. When we own an asset and put it in a county, we have to declare it and pay taxes on it.
So
Thank you.
Mitch, that is your 3 minutes. I would like to ask a clarifying question because you said a lot of different things there. I heard you say loud and clear that one of your fears is that the PUD might get tired of this someday and just sell the whole system to another one of the big privates. I heard you say that. And then I think what I heard you say was kind of what Leo was saying. It's like, why don't you just do open access and not offer retail? Is that one of the things you were also saying?
Absolutely. You know, own the roads, but don't tell them what car they have to drive. I mean, we're already facing unfair competition. You know, Willie's out in front of us with emails that promote his product and give a link to go fish for the ISPs. And, you know, they meet you first. You're a first mover. You got their phone numbers. I don't even know what the addresses where we're going. I can't get a postcard in their hand. So right now it's not a level playing field. You know, good luck. I mean, these people are losing out on the white glove service that Advanced Stream provides. We help them with their Roku, their Fitbit, their doorbell, the Internet of Things. You know, even the refrigerators know when it's time to order something from Amazon. You know, is that the business the PUD wants to be in? Give us a level playing field. You're in the business of dumb electrons. Bring it to a meter on the outside of the house and let us take care of everything else. Being an ISP is not what you envision it is. It's hand holding for everything that goes on past that meter. You can bring a water meter or electric meter, but don't fix the air conditioner or the refrigerator. What are you doing?
Okay. Thank you for the extra explanation. Dan?
So I'm going to stay on this one strict line of questioning here, and that's the broadband payment in lieu of tax negotiation. So my question is to our legal counsel. I haven't read the statute or the legislation. This term negotiation, do these other ISPs in the private sector, are they paying, do they have the ability to negotiate that rate that they're paying to the county?
No.
Just want to be clear. I want to be clear.
I haven't looked at the
Private.
I haven't looked at the tax legislation for ISPs, but my best guess would be that the tax rate is the tax rate, and the difference is that we are a subdivision of the state government, and so we're not subject to property taxes, but we are subject to a payment in lieu of property tax, as this statute requires. And, you know, Mitch, I respect your passion here, but you don't read the statute completely. You leave out key words.
Okay,
It's
guys,
pretty convenient to you.
let's keep it simple.
I'm sorry, these statutes specifically says that it's got to be jointly determined in good faith negotiation. You left the negotiation out.
And just for the facts, and I think in partly answer to Dan's question, I suspect Leo or Mitch or any other private ISP would have the same process open to them that we as property owners have open to us. That when we get a update on the valuation of our property and what the resulting taxes would be, if we have a problem with that, there is an appeal process set out by state law. And I suspect the ISPs would go through that process if they had a,
We do have an appeal process, but it's just about getting to a fair number if they've made a mistake. There's also a letter that should be pointed out November 27th from the Department of Revenue that tells you that you guys are in violation of the law. I don't know why that hasn't been brought up today. They appraised you at $6 million and say you currently owe $50,000 for 2023 that hasn't been paid. I just emailed it to you.
Okay, Mitch, thank you. Please wait to be recognized. Commissioners, any more questions at this point? Is anybody who has not yet spoken wish to make a comment or ask a question?
Well, again, not to get off on a tangent, the last comment that was just made, what is the actual start point of when we can consider ourselves retail? What is that date? Well, I know, but what was that date that we went retail? Do we have an actual date, just for clarification, just a clarification, when we actually on paper became retail?
So I will say this, Department of Revenue and Mike Bailey worked together. What was determined to be used for the information this year was off of 2023. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct. We did. I worked with them and we worked back and forth quite a bit with the DOR and we used the 2023 information.
So Mike, just a clarification. So the process is that the Department of Revenue requested the information, the PUD provided the information, and then the Department of Revenue shared that information with the Jefferson County Assessor's Office. Is that kind of how it all worked?
Yes, that is correct. There was a spreadsheet that was provided to me by DOR. I completed it. I sent it to them. They did their evaluation. They sent it to both me and the county. And then the county took that figure, the 1.5, and then did figure the tax rate, the levy and everything. And that's how we got to where we're at. And that's
right.
where we're at
And
now with the negotiations.
That started the negotiations. So presumably next year, at what time will that happen next year that the Department of Revenue will ask for 2024 asset value or whatever their year is that they're looking
I
at?
have the spreadsheet right now that I have to start trying to fill out, and I have not started filling it out yet.
Okay,
But
so
we are in that process now to start doing the
Okay.
next one.
So again, Kevin, is Philip Hunsucker County's legal counsel, has he been involved with the county side of this at all and given any sort of direction or stated any position?
I don't know. I don't know if Will or Mike knows, but to my knowledge, I doubt it, other than it's going to their board today, Will said, so we may have done a review.
Because it would make sense that they would want to hear from their county counsel as well.
Yeah, they've been in touch with their county attorney the whole time. They mentioned that at our meeting on Thursday. Jeff Chapman has been briefing them.
And I assume it was Philip Hunsucker. It could be someone else.
Okay. So is there anybody who has not yet spoken who wishes to make a comment or ask a question?
Somebody,
I see something small on the screen. I can't quite read it. From Michael. Oh, Mitchell. Okay, I think that's the letter he was referring to. Okay.
I was just going to add, if I could, that the tax was due April 15th for 2024. We know how much it is because the Department of Revenue's already appraised it.
Hey, Mitchell, and we've heard you, and our attorney is saying that your take on the RCW is not quite his take, and we have our own attorney.
And was that in chat? Do we maintain chat for public records from these Zoom meetings? Just curious. That was in the chat, wasn't it? That what just came up from Mitch? Just to make sure that, as far as public record, obviously we're on audio and video, but I don't know if the chats get retained.
So Mitchell, if you want to, just to make
It's
sure.
in email.
Yeah.
Email? Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we got email. We've got that record. All right. Anybody else new? Not seeing any hands. Leo, you had your hand up again. Did you want to say anything
Yeah, I mean,
additional?
so the
new?
tax we pay is a set percentage, so we don't get to negotiate that.
Right. And that's the same on a house. Basically, you can argue value,
You can argue value, but
and then it flows.
And they
from
can
that.
adjust. Sometimes they'll adjust.
Okay. So finishing that, then what was staff looking for us today? Just kind of a head nod in terms of, are we okay with staff taking that approach with the county? Is that what you were looking for? Joel, is there any formal motion or anything? we
And
need to-
there's an agreement between Kevin and the county manager that, maybe a motion to authorize Kevin to execute that agreement would be helpful.
Well, we haven't seen the agreement though, so.
Well, it's a motion to enter into to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement in the amount of.
I'll have to look at my phone, 6,000. And I don't know if you even need
In the amount of approximately $6,000 for this tax year.
Yeah, we can just,
6,300.
we can just do consensus to move ahead, but we really can't agree to anything till we see exactly
Well,
what it is. And
we've been
approve it, right?
verbally presented it. I think we can. We can.
and I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
you can. I think it'd be helpful to have something on the record that reflects this discussion.
Okay. Does anybody want to take a shot at it, or I will? If
I would just agree to the 50%.
So I move that we authorize the general manager to pay the amount of $6,300 to the county as the retail broadband tax for this. What was it, for this year or last year?
we're looking that up, give us a second.
I think it's for this year, sounds like.
It's for the year before. It's 2023. You guys haven't
Hello,
even-
excuse me. This is not your time to speak.
I'm assuming because we only have half a year left that it's this year.
Just hang on, we're
Yeah.
looking it up.
That's why until we get a
Be
document.
so hard on my
You
phone.
want me to share the screen?
If you can look it up, Will, and see it something real,
'Cause
please.
It's for 2024. I'm looking at the regular agenda report from the Board of County Commissioners.
And because my only concern is that the county, if they're going to meet today, they may decide not to offer the 50% thing. I mean, it could change. That's why
Well,
for us to do that is kind of redundant if there's a change in the county this afternoon. So
So, but Dan, I think the point
Is to
is
give
we have
Kevin
an April-
direction.
We have an April 30th deadline.
No, I get
And if
that.
they choose to go another path, it is no longer an agreement. So if we're trying to formalize a verbal agreement that has been reached by the executives.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that what you stated, Ken, is accurate to what staff has. Will one of you guys please read off what is being proposed?
Did Cammy
By
capture
Cammy.
it by chance?
Hold on. Somebody has
Yes,
to
I
be,
got it.
hang on.
You want me to say it?
Please.
Go ahead.
Motion to authorize the general manager to pay the amount of 6,300 to the county as the retail broadband tax for 2024.
What Ken said was 6,300. Cammy, you kind of
It-
broke up.
It's slightly over 6,300.
Okay,
Okay.
6,300, yeah. That's the motion.
Okay, so this is. So the way that the agreement that the county has it written in their board agenda is 50% of $12,717.96, which would be $6,358.98. So we have a motion for the 6,300, approximately 6,300. We have a second. That motion is consistent with the document that's been presented to us. It's a little more than 6,300. Any further discussion before we take action?
As long as Joel's good with it.
Joel, you okay with the
I'm
direction?
good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the general manager to engage in this agreement if it in fact does get approved by the county. All in favor of the motion, please
You take
indicate by
any more
saying.
discussion, or you
I thought we just did further discussion.
got a hand up? I don't know if you want to.
Mitch is not recognized.
Okay.
He is not a member of the Board of Commissioners. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. We've authorized the general manager to sign that, and I guess Mitch will recognize you. Anything new that you haven't already said?
Right. Well, that's just this letter from the Department of Revenue. It's on, I did email it to you so you can see it with your own eyes. I don't know why Joel accuses me of interpreting the law. This is the Department of Revenue interpreting the statute for you. And I thought I understood Mike to say that this was for the 2023 assessment, which makes sense because it's only, $12,000. But the Department of Revenue's clearly told you that for 2024, your tax is about $50,000. So the half that you're paying today is probably paid by mistake, but Mike can clarify what he was thinking on that.
Well, I used to be a lawyer, and as far as I know, we only have one licensed lawyer on the call, and that's Joel. So, but thank you, everybody, and this will be something that we'll have to revisit as.
Commissioner, can we just provide a little bit more background? I think Mike has some background on the actual payments due over time.
Okay, so Mike, maybe you can clarify the process.
So, yes, so we are paying 24 based on 23's information is what
Okay.
we're doing right now. We'll then base the next payment off of 24's. I believe there was some information that as the state was trying to work through some information, we did provide some information to the state just as estimates. There was no things as they worked better through it and to get an idea of what the tax rates would look like is what some of that information was. It wasn't that it was actually owed or anything, but they were working on a report to take the DOR the Department of Revenue was working on some reports for the legislative staff. And I think Will can also, because Will was part of those discussions too, we did provide some information and then they provided the DOR, but we do not owe anything for 23 because we did not technically, it would have been based on 22 and we did not have any retail at that time.
Okay, and will we owe, Mike, will we owe any more taxes before the end of this year, or will the next cycle?
No, it'll be the next cycle. It'll be every April.
Okay. All right. All right. I think we've beaten this one to death. So unless staff or commissioners have anything else, Kevin?
And Joel, I don't know if I can ask this, but is there a chance a commissioner could be on the call with the county commissioners at 3? If
I'm not available, so.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no problem with that. They
guess
live in Jefferson County, so
I'm available
that would
for
stop them.
a period of time. I got to take my son to school around 3:30.
so, we'll have a couple people there if you can. Great.
Okay. All right, but it's
Thank you.
estimated to be at 3. I know they
But to
don't
keep it
always.
quorum, I guess, is you're thinking that you don't want a quorum of commissioners, right?
No.
But
I can listen in. I'll only chime in if needed.
And I won't be on, so.
Okay. All right. So we're good with that.
thank you.
All right. I think we've finished our business for the day. You entered late. Did you have anything?
No,
This
I
one
just-
just came to pop in. Okay.
New resident here.
Okay. Well, you're free to talk to us after the meeting if you have questions or comments. All right. Well, we completed our business on this item and it's 11:41 and we now stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.